All right, what we're going to do now is to go through the workflow of moving Rhino geometry into Revit. If you're creating something for a Revit file that's already in existence, then what you'll want to do is go into the Revit world, go to a 3D view, and export a chunk of that, whatever context it is, as a DWG file, and bring it into Rhino. And that will give you kind of wherever it lands, don't move it, just import it. That'll be where the origin is. You'll know kind of based on that, kind of where you need to build your Rhino geometry. Since we're going straight from Rhino and we're bringing everything in from Rhino to Revit, then we need to just be very careful about where 0, 0 is. And make sure that's in alignment in Revit world, so that when it starts building, it knows where level 1, 0 is and can build up from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in and decide where that is, because this came from InfraWorks, and so it's probably based on coordinates that have nothing to do with kind of where we want our building, but everything to do with whatever InfraWorks was working off of. So I'm going to grab this mass here, and I'm going to need that line. So I'm just going to draw a line right there, and I'm going to move that line down 15 feet. Now for me, that's, if I remember right, that's the transformation. I lifted this building up 15 feet. So that's probably going to represent the origin. And this one there isn't really, maybe I should have it kind of extend this to the corner, but I'm just going to call that out right there. The endpoint is 0, 0. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that I have everything that I want selected that I'm going to end up bringing into Revit. Select all that, and then I'm going to do a move. I'm going to go down, pick the endpoint, and then I'm going to type in 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's absolute X, Y, and Z 0. And you'll see everything shift. Alright, so now it should be that we've got that right. So that's now our 0, 0. Now we can start exporting things. That is critical that you got that though. You have to make sure that that works. Okay, I'm going to do a quick hide of invert. So in mind that's HI. And I'm going to ungroup this polymesh. One of the things that the problems that you have with meshes when you bring them into Revit is you'll see all the triangulation. You can't see that here. Let's see if I can get it on the display in some fashion. Alright, so when I turn on the X-ray, you can start to see all this kind of triangulation. See, all of that is going to be visual noise in Revit world. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to get rid of some of the geometries we don't need, like the subways, and then for these top surfaces, I'm going to replace them with a clean poly surface. So I'm going to do mesh to NURB, and I'm going to select, I'm going to turn off poly surfaces. I'm going to select just the mesh of each one of these, delete it. And then for the poly surface, I'm going to grab each one of these. I'm going to do a duplicate border. And what duplicate border does is it gives you the outline edges for that stuff for every surface that you've selected. I'm going to move that over 1,000 feet so we can kind of see what's going on. And I'll go ahead and change this to shaded view. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and delete these. And over here, I'm going to do a patch on each one of these. Now a patch will create its surface. Now it's never perfect. I mean, it tries to be perfect, but it's going to just do the best it can. And sometimes you'll see the patch has some kind of unintended results. So, use at your own risk. But I think for these geometries, they look pretty clean. They're almost coplanar, but we know that there's a little bit of rise here. If you have a coplanar rectangle or any kind of curve, closed curve, you can make it a surface by doing planar surface. but since this isn't coplanar, we're going to have to use something else. So the patch will work. If you need higher resolution, you can kind of up this a bit, and so if you don't get good results, you can do that. I'm going to go with 15. I think we can do a little preview. It looks like it's going to end up being pretty good. I'm going to say okay. And I'm just going to do that for each one of these. Alright, so just move the surface back over 1,000 feet. When I do big moves like that, I always make sure I understand, kind of make it some, large number that's simple, like 1,000, 100, 200, something like that. Something I'm going to remember. Alright, one other thing I want to make sure is my C-plane, when I was modeling earlier, I had shifted it to some other C-plane, so make sure that that's on top. Alright, now let's go ahead and show all. For me, that's SA. Alright, let's see, turn this from shaded to technical. And grab that, and we're going to hide everything else. And then these, I'm going to do a mesh to NURB. Alright, then I'm going to delete the mesh. I'm going to grab that stuff and do a merge all face. So all this kind of triangulation should be cleaned up. Try that again. Didn't take. Alright, it looks like we're good. The merge all faces worked. Alright, we're going to make sure that stuff is on the right layer. So change object layer. And let's go ahead and show all. If you're not following what SA is, you just want to watch the aliasing video again so you're caught up and you have those shortcuts installed. Alright, I think we're getting pretty close. What I want to do finally is I want to make sure that these surfaces that represent kind of the ground plane are on ground plane layer. So making sure that happens. I'm going to grab all the, select all the objects on the ground plane right now, and I'm going to hide. I'm going to do a HI, so it's going to hide invert. And I want to grab all the meshes. And we're going to go do a mesh to NURB for all that stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to delete all the mesh stuff. I'm going to grab all the ground plane stuff, and we're going to do an export. Export selected, and we're not going to do DWG, we're going to do an SAT, this one right here. And we're going to call this out as, say, ground. And we'll do the same with building. You'll do the same with your design. So now we just grab the buildings, do an export, selected. And then we will do the final design. For right now, let's just grab this mask. Don't grab what is in red. And we'll bring that into Revit. And you'll do this operation 3 times, exact same way. So we just go to 3D view. Under masking and site, you're going to do an in-place mask. Do not forget to do this. You see that right there, and we'll call this ground. And then we're going to do an insert link CAD, just in case we need to change it later. We'll be able to update. We're going to turn it from DWG to SAT, and you'll go with ground. Make sure origin to origin is on, and say open. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now we'll do the same operation. We'll go ahead and finish that mass. And we'll do another one. Call this the buildings. Insert, link CAD, buildings. Alright, so we already have an issue. Apparently I had the design on. So we'll have to kind of I'll redo that for myself. For you guys, just make sure you didn't do that. So I'm going to turn off the final design, grab all this stuff. Go back into Revit. And I'll go ahead and finish the mass. And then what you'll do is under Manage, you'll go to Manage Links. Since we linked it all in, all we have to do is hit Buildings SAT, reload it, say OK, and you can see that the design is not in there anymore. You got an empty hole. Alright, so we'll do one more time. In place mass, this will be the design. Say OK, finish. No, not finish. Insert, link CAD, design, open. It's there, finish mass. Alright, that's how it's done.